So in today's episode of Just How Weird is MAGA, the Trump campaign spent hours begging Kyle Rittenhouse to re-endorse Trump after Kyle Rittenhouse said that he was going to write in Ron Paul for president. Yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse, for once in his life, had an independent thought. For once in his life, he thought, you know what, I'm just going to step outside the cult here for a minute and express myself in a different manner. I'm not going to necessarily take up for the leader. And he learned real fast that that ain't how it works in MAGA. Because when he released this video, MAGA turned on him in a heartbeat. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Kyle Rittenhouse, Outreach Director for Texas Gun Rights. A lot of people are upset that I said I'm going to be writing in Ron Paul for President of the United States. And that is true. I will be writing in Ron Paul. Unfortunately, Donald Trump had bad advisors making him bad on the Second Amendment, and that is my issue. If you cannot be completely uncompromisable on the Second Amendment, I will not vote for you, and I will write somebody else in. We need champions for the Second Amendment, or our rights will be eaten away and eroded each day. I support my decision, and I have no takebacks.
So yeah, I've heard different numbers as to how many thousands of followers he lost, so I don't want to name the number because I've heard several different reports that he lost 20,000 followers. Some said he lost 100,000 followers. I don't know exactly how many he lost, but I do know that MAGA's heads exploded, and they took to social media to just crucify Kyle, saying, how could you do this after President Trump got shot at? How could you do this? He took a bullet for democracy. Wah, wah, wah. And so Kyle realized real quick, wait, I'm not allowed to speak on my own. I'm not allowed to have an independent thought. I have to follow my master. And so he released this cowardly post. Over the past 12 hours, think about that, 12 hours. Over the past 12 hours, I have had a series of productive conversations with members of the Trump team, and I am confident he will be the strong ally gun owners need to defend our Second Amendment rights. My comments made last night were ill-informed and unproductive. I am 100% behind Donald Trump, and I encourage every gun owner to join me in helping send him back to the White House. See, I just picture him sitting in front of Tony Soprano, and Tony Soprano being like, you made an oath, kid. They made this kid their hero. They made this kid the poster boy for the Second Amendment. They helped him get away with murder, and then they pushed him to the moon like he's some sort of spokesman for the Second Amendment. But the minute that he had an independent thought, the minute that he tried to think for himself, the minute that he tried to step out of line, they yanked him back in line real quick. Now he's having to go out there and apologize and try to regain his followers. But think about how weird that it is that a politician would cater to Kyle Rittenhouse and be concerned. Trump is that desperate that he's trying to hold on to the Kyle Rittenhouse vote. He's so desperate that he's trying to hold on to people who supports Kyle Rittenhouse, and there are people that does. He came here to East Tennessee, not far from where I'm sitting, and people paid their hard-earned money to see this kid speak like he's some kind of hero and like he's some kind of expert. And I hate to go back over all this again, but this was a kid who went to a protest that he had no business being involved in, took an assault rifle, walked down the street. He wouldn't have made it 2 steps if he was a black kid. And he took the law into his own hands and tried to play vigilante. And the reason why that MAGA sat back and cheered that kid so hard is because they was living vicariously through him. He was doing what they had been wanting to do the entire summer of 2020. That's what they had been wanting to do. And so they pushed him to the moon as their poster boy. He does have a following, and he does have influence in MAGA's world. And when he stepped out of line, they panicked because they didn't want to lose that vote. And again, that tells you everything you need to know about them as people. That they would want this kid's support, and they would want people that support that kid. Kyle Rittenhouse had no business being there, just like this bee that's trying to sting me right now has no business being here. Okay, I've been sitting here fighting this thing off the entire time. But I don't need Kyle to come to my porch and swat it for me, okay? I can handle this, Kyle. You just relax, because you don't know what you're doing anyway. And you also didn't realize that the minute you stepped out of line with your leader, that you'd be slapped back in line. So what I would say to Kyle Rittenhouse is, how does it feel to have to spend the rest of your life as a puppet to these people? They helped you get out of that. They made you their little hero, and now you got to say every word they say, because the minute you step out of line, they're going to slap you back in line. And he didn't have the backbone or the guts to say, you know what, screw you guys. I said what I said. I'm not going to back off of it. I've heard him sit and whine and cry and talk about how he has to live his life and be looked down on and people are judging him. Okay, well, you could have for once had a little bit of a backbone and said, you know what? That's what I said. I'm writing in Ron Paul. But no, he couldn't do it because he's a puppet. And it's sad to me that people would take a kid like that. I'm not a fan of Kyle Rittenhouse, and I'm not defending him. But it's sad to me that MAGA would take a kid like that, make him their puppet, force him to say everything they say, and make him into a hero because he went to a protest he shouldn't have been involved in and murdered 2 people. And he's a hero for that. And he's a spokesman for them. And they cater to him and to the people that supports him. That's how desperate they are. And that's how weird they are. And we're going to continue to use the word weird no matter how much it offends Elon Musk. Because, folks, this isn't normal. And we can't normalize this type of rhetoric. We can't normalize this type of behavior. It's not normal. What Kyle Rittenhouse did was not normal. You can't go around playing vigilante just because your mommy drops you off somewhere. It's not how it works. I can't believe we're even having these discussions. I sometimes sit here in this chair and go, am I really about to talk about this? Is this the real world? And I can't count the times here lately that I've had texts from my friends who will send me a story, and the text below it will say, is this real life, Brando? Is this really happening? Yeah, it's really happening. MAGA helped a kid get away with murder and made him their poster boy. They built him up a following. They paid money to see him speak. They told him what to say, by the way, I'm sure. They funneled every word into him. And then the minute he stepped out of line, they slapped him back in line and told him, no, you don't speak out against Tony Soprano. Yep, it's real life, folks. I'm sorry to say.